Right. Good afternoon, everybody. TGIF. Nice to see you. Do not have any comments at the top, so we can go straight to your questions. Josh, would you like to start?
Sure. Thanks, Josh. I'd like to start with the White House's efforts to secure a vote in the Senate for the President's Supreme Court nominee. Yeah. After there had been some signs that some Republicans might be open to hearings, we have a new joint op-ed from Senators Grassley and McConnell that really are pushing back on that. So I guess my question to you would be the same one I asked you just a few days ago, which is, are you making headway here?
Well, Josh, let me start out by telling you that the President in the last 24 hours or so, basically since I last saw you, has begun something that I alluded to yesterday, which is the President will consult a wide variety of individuals with a wide variety of perspectives as he contemplates his nominee to fill the vacancy on the Supreme Court. That consultation included, just in the last 24 hours, telephone calls with Leader McConnell, Leader Reid, Chairman Grassley, and Senator Leahy, who is the ranking member on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Obviously, the significance of the call with Senator Grassley is that he's the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And this, again, this will be part of the President's process of making a decision about who the best person is to fill a vacancy on the Supreme Court. And it's interesting that you cite the op-ed because the op-ed was written by two individuals who actually voted to confirm the last nominee to the Supreme Court who was put up for a confirmation vote during a presidential election year. So they know firsthand, based on their own voting record, that there is a clear precedent here. And in fact, what that Senate did is it was actually run by Democrats. Both Senator Grassley and Senator McConnell at the time were in the minority. But what you saw Senate Democrats do is act on the nominee that was put forward by the president in the other party. And they held that vote in a presidential election year. That was their constitutional responsibility. It was President Reagan's constitutional duty to put forward a nominee, and it was the constitutional duty of the United States Senate to give that nominee a fair hearing and a timely yes or no vote. That's precisely what the Senate did in 1988. Senators Grassley and McConnell had their own role in that, and we would expect them to do the same thing this time.
What more can you tell us about what transpired on those phone calls that you just mentioned? Was the president able to get any sense from congressional leaders that if he were to nominate certain candidates of certain ideological flavor, that he might be able to get a vote to confirm them?
Well, Josh, I do want to give the president the ability to have to consult privately, even if we describe to you what that consultation process looks like. I can tell you that in those telephone calls that they were entirely professional, and that there was an opportunity for the president to make clear that he is going to nominate someone. The president made clear that he is committed to consulting with Congress as he decides who that nominee should be. And the president made clear that he's doing all of this because he believes he has a constitutional duty to do so. And he reiterated his firm belief that the Senate has a constitutional obligation here as well.
I wanted to ask you also about the U.S. airstrikes overnight in Libya. Was this kind of a one-off going after a high-level target similar to what we saw in Libya late last year, or should we be looking at this as the start of a stepped-up military effort in Libya?
Josh, let's do the details first. I can confirm for you that early this morning, the United States military conducted an airstrike in Libya, targeting both an ISIL training camp near Sabratha and a specific leading ISIL figure named Nuruddin Shushan. This individual is a known ISIL leader, a facilitator, and an individual who has facilitated the flow of foreign terrorist fighters across North Africa. This individual is also wanted because of the role that he played in carrying out a terrorist attack almost a year ago, in March of 2015, in Tunis, killing a number of tourists at the Bardo Museum in Tunis. We, at this point, cannot confirm the results of the operation, but I do think it is legitimate for you to connect this operation with the operation that U.S. military forces carried out back in November. Back in November, U.S. military forces carried out a strike against the leading ISIL figure in Libya, Abu Nabil. We have concluded that that strike was successful, and both of these military strikes are an indication that the president will make good on his promise to continue to apply pressure to ISIL leaders who threaten the United States and our interests. And this does demonstrate the important capabilities that the United States has, including in Libya. And it's an indication that the president will not hesitate to take these kinds of forceful, decisive actions to ensure the safety and security of the American people. And obviously, today is one additional occasion for us to pay tribute to the courage, service, professionalism, and expertise of the men and women who serve in the United States military. Here we have a tangible example of how their service to the country makes all of us safer.
And lastly, Senator Sanders, in a BET interview that's going to be airing, suggested that the reason that Hillary Clinton is wrapping herself in the Obama legacy so much is because she's going after African American voters in particular. The Clinton campaign has taken some issue with that. Does the president consider that to be an appropriate assessment of what Clinton is doing?
Well, I guess for a good assessment of the Clinton campaign strategy, you should check with the Clinton campaign, and it sounds like you might have done that already. I think there are a couple of facts that I would point out. The first is, Senator Sanders stood not too far away from where I'm standing. You can just peek out the window and sort of see the spot where he was standing, where he spoke to all of you after having spent an hour with the President of the United States in the Oval Office, where he talked to all of you about how proud he was of the progress our country has made under President Obama's leadership. And I think that's a pretty strong statement about how supportive and proud Senator Sanders is of President Obama's legacy. And that certainly is consistent with the kinds of comments that we've heard from Secretary Clinton. Both candidates were making those kinds of statements in advance of the Iowa caucuses. And based on even my own personal experience there, I know the proportion of African-American voters in the Iowa caucuses is not particularly high. So I suspect that those kinds of comments from both candidates is an indication that, A, that they share President Obama's priorities and values when it comes to the direction of the country. Both of them have played their unique role in supporting the president in advancing those values and priorities. Obviously, Senator Sanders, on a range of legislative priorities, has been supportive of the president's legislative agenda in an important way. And obviously, Secretary Clinton had a role as the Secretary of State in the Obama administration to advance the president's foreign policy vision around the world. So, both of them have their own unique perspective here, but I think both of them are making this case about the progress that we've made over the last 7 years under President Obama's leadership, both to illustrate where it is they stand on the issues, but also to make a case to voters, especially Democratic voters, that they're prepared to build on the progress that we've made so far.
Thanks.
Okay. Roberta.
The op-ed that was written by Leader McConnell and Senator Grassley ran around 8 p.m. last night. And I'm wondering if you can say whether the president spoke to them after, whether they talked about the issues that the two senators had brought up in their op-ed.
I can tell you that President Obama had the opportunity to connect with Leader McConnell earlier in the day yesterday than 8 o'clock. And he spoke to Senator Grassley just this morning. They tried to connect yesterday, but were able to connect today. Again, I don't have a lot of details to share with you about the substance of their conversation, but I wouldn't be surprised if those kinds of issues came up. You can check with the two senators' office to confirm what they raised.
And yesterday, Vice President Biden did an interview with Rachel Maddow, and he described how President Reagan had called him into the Oval Office and went through a list of candidates that he was considering. And then Senator Biden gave his opinions on which ones he thought were possible for the Senate to confirm. And Vice President said that he thought President Obama should do that with Senator Grassley, sit down with him and go through a list. I'm wondering if you can say whether that's something that the President would be interested or open to doing or committed to doing.
Well, I think I would say generally that what's notable about the difference in the two situations, that